This national news edition originates from VK1WIA and is rebroadcast throughout Australia and around the world under a common licence published on the WIA website. This WIA national news service is copyright to the Wireless Institute of Australia, and rebroadcast is authorised only under the provisions of that common licence. WIA Director and Company Secretary Peter Cleave, VK8ZZ.
From Australia, this is the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
In WIA National News this week, Scott Williams, WIA President, VK3KJ, AGM notes. Henry, VK2ZHE, President of the Oxley Region Amateur Radio Club. Peter, VK7PD, on behalf of the RAOTC, and Alan, VK2COD, for YOTA. But wait, there's much, much more in this edition of news from the Wireless Institute of Australia, and it's for week commencing Sunday, May 3, 2026. I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB.
This is your WIA News. Just the facts.
This is WIA Director and President Scott Williams, VK3KJ, and welcome to the WIA broadcast this week. What a huge couple of days it's been. And as I'm recording this message, I'm in Albury, New South Wales, attending the VK Summit Conference hosted by the Albury-Wodonga Amateur Radio Club. The event also hosted the WIA AGM for 2026, which took place yesterday here in Albury at the Commercial Club with over 100 people in attendance, both in person and online. VK Summit was attended by well over 200 people, and what a credit it was to the organising committee at the Albury-Wodonga Amateur Radio Club. There are 14 presentations taking place over the weekend, and there was a wonderful dinner last night attended by well over 150 people, with our guest speaker being DX Hall of Famer Adrian KO8SCA on his recent amazing and adventurous trip to 3 Yankee 0 Kilo, Bouvet Island. One of the highlights again this year was a live cross to the International Space Station, where scouts from the Wodonga Scouts group made contact with NA-1SS, posing a range of questions to some of the NASA astronauts. A huge thank goes out to Jack Bramham, VK3WWW, and Shane Lynn, VK4KHZ, for making the cross possible. The WIA thanks the Albury-Wodonga Amateur Radio Club for hosting this year's AGM, with a special call-out to President Erwin Bagesta, VK3ERW, Vice President Anthony Kufu, VK3TCM, Secretary Ross Wheeler, VK2DGY, and all of the organising committee at the club. Thank you for bringing this weekend together and making the VK Summit such a success. At the AGM each year, there's a range of merit and publication awards that are presented to a range of very worthy recipients. It's impossible to read the background on every award recipient on the broadcast. However, we will separately publish a document on the WIA website that outlines the wonderful contribution that each of these award recipients have made to amateur radio. The Merit Award winners for 2025 are the Brenda Edmonds Education Award goes to Paul Hoffman, VK5PH. The Chris Jones Award to Diane and Bill Main, VK4DI and VK4ZD. The WIA Technical Excellence Award to Peter Cousins, VK3BFG. The Ron Wilkinson Award to Hayden Honeywood, VK7HH. The WIA Foundation License Award went to Alan Cherry, VK2COD. A President's Commendation went to Shane Lynn, VK4KHZ, and another President's Commendation went to Angelo Giuffre, VK2NWT. There was also a range of publication awards for 2025. The Hingerbottom Award went to Bruce Kendall, VK3WL. The Al Shawsmith Award went to Dale Hughes, VK1DSH. A Technical Award to George Galanis, VK3EIP. Another Technical Award to Gary Gibson, VK2DBN. And an Encouragement Award went to Peter Marks, VK3TPM. Also, there was a new award this year for Best Image. This went to Greg Mew, VK4GRM, and Gary Bramham, VK3WWW. We also recognise the contest champion for 2025, which was Alan Shannon, VK4SH, also VK4M. The WIA congratulates all award recipients for 2025. That's it for me this week, and this has been Scott Williams, WIA President, on behalf of the WIA Board. Best wishes.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. AST Space Mobile wins FCC approval. 430 to 440 MHz used in satellite control. The approval, granted by the Federal Communications Commission, allows AST to deploy its full planned constellation of 248 satellites and provide what it describes as supplemental coverage from space, both within the US and internationally. Additionally, the FCC has permitted AST to use frequencies in the 430 to 440 MHz range as a backup for satellite control and tracking in emergency situations, despite concerns raised by amateur radio operators. The regulator concluded that AST has shown that harmful interference from AST's transmissions to other authorised operations, including to amateur operations in the 430 to 440 MHz band, is extremely unlikely, and if such interference should occur, AST is capable of ceasing such transmissions. Thousands of tiny dots could save first responders' lives. A critical problem in emergency response, namely tracking personnel inside buildings where GPS simply doesn't work. To address this, the US National Institute of Standards and Technology researchers developed the first Responder Smart Tracking FRST challenge, aimed at creating wearable devices capable of accurately tracking responders indoors. These devices must be rugged, easy to use, and able to communicate location data back to a command centre while operating in harsh environments like fires or disaster zones. A key innovation in testing these systems is the use of thousands of precisely mapped dots across a large facility. These reference points act as a ground truth for measuring accuracy, allowing developers to precisely compare estimated positions against known locations. Teams were tested in realistic mission-style scenarios, navigating buildings and identifying hundreds of these points to validate how well their tracking technologies performed. While the formal challenge is winding down, ongoing research and collaboration aim to turn these prototypes into practical tools, helping ensure emergency personnel can be located quickly and safely when it matters most. Dayton Hamvention 2026 features a wide range of forums to appeal to amateur radio operators of all interests, experience levels and ages. But you really need a month to enjoy it all, and let's face it, it's only over a weekend. On opening day alone, Friday, May 15, there are 22 forums beginning at 9:15 a.m. The Hamvention Forums Committee has assembled a diverse lineup covering technical topics, operating skills and emerging interest areas. Certainly Dayton is on most VK's bucket list, and here in Australia, what is shaping up to be arguably the most professional ham conference ever attempted here in the ilk of Dayton is this year's Tassie Ham Econ in November. A nationwide analog-to-digital upgrade of the New Zealand Defence Force's NZDF voice communication links has provided a large boost to network throughput, supporting a greater number of dedicated voice channels. Deploying MemoLink Tornado radios from Ubik, NZDF's Waioru site was chosen as a trial location. Other NZDF sites across New Zealand followed, and the final site was completed in 2024. Providing high-capacity voice backhaul links at NZDF camps and bases, The links are used for unclassified, unrestricted voice communications for range safety, emergency services, security guards, and general non-encrypted base communications. The priority traffic at each location is range control, that is, ensuring firing stops to maintain personnel safety, with each range now having its own dedicated channel. Given the remote locations of some of the NZDF sites, terrain and climate challenges were considered during the RF design phase. 2 of the NZDF sites are in the mountainous central regions of both the North and South Islands, which means snow and ice are regular winter features, and the links needed to be designed to cope with environment. New Zealand launches 8 satellites. Rocket Lab successfully launched 8 satellites for Japan late Wednesday night as part of its Kakushin Rising mission, supporting the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency's innovative satellite technology demonstration program. The Electron rocket deployed all 8 spacecraft into low Earth orbit at an altitude of approximately 336 miles, 540 kilometres. Deployment occurred less than 1 hour after liftoff, in line with mission expectations. Rocket Lab confirmed successful separation of all payloads shortly after the event. The mission marked the 79th launch of the Electron launch vehicle. Several of the satellites are IARU coordinated with amateur radio downlinks in the VHF and UHF bands. Early reports from the SAT-NOGS network indicate that multiple satellites are already transmitting, with CW beacon signals received within hours of launch. These initial receptions confirm successful early operations and provide immediate opportunities for amateur radio operators to monitor and decode signals. For WIA National News in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, operational news with VK4FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. Now, contest-wise 2026. Harry Angel Memorial Sprint, May 2nd. Don Edwards Memorial Slow Morse Contest is 16-17 of May. This contest commemorates Don, VK2NV, and amateurs of all experience levels are encouraged to take part. The rules are simple. Morse code sent by hand and received by ear, with operating speeds limited to 10 words per minute or less. Some contacts in previous years were as slow as 3 words per minute. The contest runs for 3 hours on Saturday evening on 80 metres and 3 hours on Sunday afternoon on 40 metres. June 6 and 7, VK Shires Contest. June 2021, VHF UHF Field Day. July 4 and 5, NZART Memorial Contest. July 11-12, IARUHF Championship. July 18, VK Trans-Tasman Contest. July 25-26, RSGB IOTA Contest. Now let's open the DX window to the world. Amateur radio will be leaking goals this year for soccer, to coincide with the FIFA World Cup 2026. The tournament and unaffiliated ham radio event will run from June 11 to July 19. As players from around the world compete in the stadiums, amateur radio operators will be looking for contacts during this Football on the Air special event. Teams of hams will be on the air calling CQ from some 16 World Cup host cities. The host cities, like the teams, are truly international. 3 are in Mexico, 2 are in Canada, and the remaining 11 are in the United States. With a roster of 48 football teams, this is the largest international tournament to date. Many of the amateur stations will be using one-by-one call signs such as W5C, operating CW, SSB and the digital modes on HF and VHF as band conditions allow. Others will have longer special event call signs that can be found on the website. There will also be a wildcard bonus station using the call sign WC5WC. Listen for Anu and Luke using the call signs C5D and C5C respectively from the Gambia now until the 8th of May. C5D will be active on RITI, PSK and FT8. C5C will be using SSB and CW. They are also scheduling an activation on the Beagle Islands, IOTA number AF060, where they will be using the call sign C5B and operating via satellite RS44. A group of operators from Belgium will be using the call sign GB9IOW from the Isle of Wight, IOTA number EU120, through to the 5th of May. They will be operating SSB, CW and digital modes on the HF bands and 6 meters as well, and via the QO100 satellite and 23 centimeters moon bounce. August 8 will be one perfect day. Cat Pics on the Air, CPOTA 2026 will celebrate International Cat Day by transmitting images of cats via SSTV. The internet was made for sharing funny cat pictures and movies. On August the 8th, International Cat Day, so will the radio waves. This contest will score the number of QSOs made by each operator. Special call signs PD6MEOW Netherlands and N1C US are already registered. Additional special call signs may be registered with the event. For WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ Inningham.
From here, there and everywhere, you tune to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, Special Interest Group News with Cole, VK3GTV.
Hello, first up in Worldwide Special Interest Group News this week, it's Summits on the Air, Worldwide Flora and Fauna Program, Parks on the Air, and other adventure groups. GM Flora and Fauna, GMFF, is an amateur radio award program for activators and chasers who enjoy portable operating from natural and outdoor locations. For 99% of our listeners and viewers, activating is out of the question, but chase we all can. The program includes awards such as the Islands of Scotland Award, Scotland's Wildlife Award, Islands of the Crown Dependencies Award, Islands of Wales Award, Islands of Northern Ireland Award, Islands of the Republic of Ireland Award, National Nature Reserves Award, British Overseas Territories Award, and many, many more, with more awards expected to be added to the program. Check out their website. It's an easy one, gmff.uk. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Computing, Farewell ISDN, ham radio and old network drivers, removal of AX.25 and ham radio subsystem support from the Linux kernel. While the headline sounds ominous, most modern AX25 implementations occur in software at the user level without relying on the kernel-level implementation. Direwolf, for example, does not require kernel-level AX25 support. Other software relying on AX25 may take advantage of dedicated AX25 Python libraries. The change comes as a result of AI-based bug detection services capable of identifying critical issues among code that may no longer be maintained or utilized by end users. Torvalds stated that the amateur radio-related code in the Linux kernel no longer had any active maintainers. Amateur radio did have occasional users, but most users switched to user space implementations since it's all super slow stuff. Nobody stepped up to maintain the kernel code. According to TypeSense, the last Linux kernel commit related to AX25 was 6 years ago. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Final Frontier, Successful, Diamond Harbour School, Christchurch, New Zealand, Tellybridge via IK1SLD. The ISS call sign was OR4ISS and crew member was Jack Hathaway, KJ5NIV. The Aris mentor was Shane Lind, VK4KHZ. Contact was successfully on Monday, April the 20th, so congratulations to the Diamond Harbour School students, Spaceman Jack, Mentor Shane, and Tellybridge IK1SLD. And not so successful, the US Federal Aviation Administration has grounded Blue Origin's New Glenn following a launch incident from Cape Canaveral. The rocket performed nominally during ascent but failed to place its payload, AST Space Mobile's Bluebird 7 satellite, into the intended orbit. The FAA classified the event as a mishap and has opened an investigation to determine the root cause and ensure public safety before allowing a return to flight. According to available telemetry, the payload reached only about a 153-kilometre orbit instead of the planned altitude, rendering it unsustainable. Despite the anomaly, Blue Origin successfully landed and recovered the booster for the first time, supporting future reusability and higher launch cadence. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Mills on the Air. Where there's a mill, there's a way. Get ready to activate some of these historic sites or chase operators who are there. The Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings, SPAB, runs a Mills celebration event every year on or around the second weekend in May, which this year falls next weekend, May 9th and 10th. The Denby-Dale Amateur Radio Club, formerly Denby-Dale Amateur Radio Society, have organised the Mills on the Air event since 1996, showcasing mills of all descriptions around the world. Closer to home, the Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club, Barrick, once again will activate a station over the Mills on the Air weekend when the atmosphere of Anderson's Mill comes alive with displays of heritage crafts, machinery and historical exhibitions, all free and open to the public. Parks Victoria describes this historical site, situated on the banks of Birches Creek at Smeaton. Anderson's Mill stands as a powerful reminder of an industry that flourished after the gold rush of the 1850s. Standing today much like it was over 100 years ago, the 5-storey bluestone building and its magnificent iron water wheel are still in place. Anderson's Mill is located in Smeaton, north of Creswick, in an area well known for its fertile volcanic soils and gold mining past. Keep an eye out on the Barrick website, barrick.net.au, for details, and listen out for the special call sign VI3 Mills over the weekend. Make a contact and receive a QSL card. If you or your club is planning on activating a Mills on the Air station, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us an email, nationalnews@wia.org.au. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Police. From May 10 to May 16, a small group in southwest Ontario will be putting on the special call sign VB3 Cops during Police Services Week to honour and thank all police personnel for what they do for us daily. From May 17th to May 23, these Canadians will be putting on special call sign VB3 EMS during Emergency Medical Services Week to honour and thank all our first responders for the job they do daily, for which we seldom get to thank them. Information will be available on qrz.com under VB3 Cops and VB3 EMS. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amateur Oldtimers. And with the latest news, it's over to Peter.
Hello everyone, this is Peter, VK7PD, reminding you that tomorrow is the first Monday of the month. Time for the Radio Amateurs Oldtimers Club of Australia May Bulletin to go to air. This month, as well as latest club news, Bill, VK3 Bravo Romeo, will give us some thoughts on the hazards of mobile phone towers as was perceived in 2014. John, VK3 Mike Kilo, will tell us about memoirs of Winston Nichols, VK7 Echo Mike, from a recent OTN article, My Amateur Television Life. Everyone, RAOTC members and non-members alike, is most welcome to listen to the program and to join in the callbacks afterwards. Full details of all transmission times and modes may be found on the RAOTC website at www.raotc.org.au or just Google RAOTC broadcasts. If none of the transmission times suit you, you can download the audio file at any time from today from the club's website. Once again, tune in tomorrow for the May RAOTC Bulletin. Enjoy the program and please join in the callback afterwards.
Thanks, Peter. And from the oldies to the youngsters on the air, it's Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amateur Youngtimers, YOTA, with Alan, VK2COD.
Thank you, Cole. Earlier in this WIA national news broadcast, Jason told us about this year's Dayton Hamvention. Dayton certainly does support us youngsters on the air. Young hams can start off Saturday morning with the Youth Forum, sponsored by the Radio Club of America. In that forum, student presenters include Webelos, Scout Adam Grubb, KF8EKW, who is currently building a 70cm EME station for his school science project. That's some science project. broadcasting KQ4SJM, will share his interest in satellites, homebrew antennas, and simple soldering kits. Other young presenters and panelists include Haley Pendle, KE2EVX, and Anderson Ray, K4RAY. Young hams can also join in Saturday afternoon fun with the ARRL Youth Rally activities. An ARRL Collegiate Amateur Radio meetup will follow the Youth Rally. For WIA National News, I'm Alan, VK2COD in Sydney. Now back to you, Cole.
Thanks, Alan. Next up, it's Worldwide Special Interest Groups Rescue Radio. On the occasion of World Amateur Radio Day, the executive body of the National Telecommunications Council, Conatel, commends the remarkable contribution of amateur radio operators to the development and strengthening of communications systems in Haiti. Conatel is committed to promoting and supporting this sector, whose role has often been crucial in managing the various crises and disasters their society has faced. In this regard, Conatel, in collaboration with the Radio Club of Haiti, has already trained more than 50 amateur radio operators. Furthermore, the institution is currently working to establish an amateur radio station within its organisation with the aim of ensuring a better understanding of the issues and developing genuine expertise among the trained personnel. In a context where the continuity of communications is a major strategic issue, Conatel reaffirms its confidence in the reliability, resilience and responsiveness of amateur radio stations, which remain essential partners, particularly in emergency situations. It encourages them to pursue their mission with professionalism, innovation and a commitment to public service for the benefit of the nation. For WIA National News, I'm Cole, VK3GTV.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
On the social scene, VK2 Picton Hamfest, May 31 at the Showgrounds, 8 a.m. Also in VK2, the Oxley Region Amateur Radio Club's Field Day, June 6 and 7.
I'm Henry, VK2ZHE, President of the Oxley Region Amateur Radio Club. It's now only 5 weeks to the Oxley Region Amateur Radio Club's 50th annual Field Day at the Wauchope Showground Hall on Saturday and Sunday, the 6th and 7th of June 2026, during the New South Wales King's Birthday long weekend. There will be all the usual Field Day activities, including traders, trash and treasure, fox hunting and a homebrew display. The Field Day dinner will be held at the Port Macquarie Golf Club on the Saturday night. Mark your calendar now for the June long weekend. The Wauchope Showground permits camping, so it is possible to stay on site in your own motorhome, caravan or tent with power and amenities, but you must book ahead with the showground caretaker. I'm Henry, VK2ZHE for VK1WIA National News.
Thanks, Henry. Now, on the same date in VK5, that is June 6 and 7, it's the South East Radio Group's convention and the Australian Fox Hunting Championship, to be held Mount Gambier, as I said, June 6 and 7. Worldwide, June 26 to June 28, it's Ham Radio, the International Amateur Radio Exhibition, Friedrichshafen, Germany. VK3 Gippsland Gate Radio and Electronics Club Hamfest Sale, Longwarry Community Hall, 10 a.m. on the 4th of July. In VK3 also, the Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club Radio Fest, Sunday, October 11, Bendigo East Hall, Lancel Street. VK7 Tassie Hammy Con, the Radio Conference, November 7 and 8 at the University of Tasmania's Sandy Bay campus. And VK5, Adelaide Amateur Radio and Electronics Car Boot Sale, Dogs South Australia Showground, Cromwell Road, Kilburn, 10 a.m, November 21. So now, until next we meet, I am Graham, I am VK4BB. Walk softly.
From Australia, this has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.
Greetings, listeners. This is VK3OTN, the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club of Australia, with this month's news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club for May 2026. I am Andrew, a VK3 Charlie Alpha Hotel. Details on when to hear the news and information bulletins are available at the club's website, www.raotc.org.au. VK3OTN is available on a wide range of radio platforms, HF, VHF and UHF, along with 2-metre repeaters, amateur television, DMR, that is digital mobile radio, and D-Star. These news broadcasts are available for download for up to 6 months, just in case you missed the original news broadcast from the RAOTC website. Just put RAOTC into your favourite search engine. If you'd like to contact the club, then why not send us an email? Our address is raotc@raotc.org.au. I hope you enjoy this month's news broadcast. Welcome to the latest RAOTC Club News for May 2026. The objectives of the RAOTC is to maintain the interest and original pioneer spirit of amateur radio, honour the history and heritage of our hobby, and encourage good fellowship amongst all radio amateurs. Full membership of the RAOTC is available to any person who has held or has been qualified to hold an amateur licence for a minimum of 25 years. Associate membership is available to any person who has held or has been qualified to hold an amateur licence for a minimum of 10 years. Associate members are entitled to all the privileges of full membership except the right to vote or hold office. An RAOTC member, on achieving 90 years of age and having been a member for a minimum of 10 years, automatically qualifies for 3 life membership. Membership subscriptions, which fall due on the 30th of April each year, start at $18 for a 1-year membership, so if you're not a member, why not give it a go for 12 months and see what you think? There is a sample copy of OTN on the club's website for you to download and peruse at your leisure. The address of the club's website is www.raotc.org.au. RAOTC subscriptions. The annual RAOTC renewal services should have been enclosed along with the latest OTN address sheets. The committee, along with our paid-up financial members, would be greatly appreciative if you could attend to this in a timely fashion. Now, as a matter of courtesy to members and other fellow amateurs, if you don't intend to renew, then kindly drop us an email and let us know. The club's email address is raotc@raotc.org.au. I want to thank John Ross, VK3 Mike Kilo, for assisting in recording some of the technical articles that are offered each month, so that gives everyone a little more variety from hearing me drone on for half an hour. Many of the technical articles here on the monthly news broadcast have previously appeared in OTN, or Old Timers News, the official journal of the club. The news broadcast serves several purposes. One of them is to disseminate last-minute information to members of the club and primarily draw attention to the club and to the wider amateur community that may not be aware of its existence. I also want to extend thanks to all of those operators that help disseminate the broadcast on a regular basis when time permits. As I've mentioned before, if you want to hear it on your local repeater on a regular basis when it's currently not available and you're able to help out, then please send the club an email. Western Australia. I've mentioned this subject before, however, we're still after someone from VK6 to take over doing the promotions for the local WA amateur radio news. Clive Wallace, a VK6 CSW, is not going to be able to do this forever. Peter, VK7PD, has stepped forward to help out with the promos for the national WIA news, and this is really appreciated. Peter is part of the VK7 WIA news team and will be familiar to those in Tasmania as well as those who listen to the VK7 amateur radio news at 9:30 on a Sunday morning. We still need someone local in VK6 for VK6. Last month I mentioned a great technical forum weekend called Antennapalooza that was held on a rural property near Druin, about an hour east of Melbourne. I'll talk a little about this in a later broadcast. It gave me an opportunity to meet up with amateurs that I've only met previously either on air or via email. One operator that I met up with was Jamie, a VK3TZE, who is part of the team that enables the monthly news broadcast to go out on VK3 REC, which has a magnificent 2 metre coverage over most of Melbourne. AX prefix. Please remember that we are allowed to use it 3 times a year. Hopefully, many members were able to use the AX prefix recently, with Anzac Day being one of them, along with Australia Day and World Telecommunication Day, which is on May 17. So if you missed out, you've got another opportunity to use it on Sunday, May 17. So why not try using the AX prefix? For those that may have missed last month's broadcast, the stand-in speaker at the most recent Melbourne RAOTC luncheon was our Administrative Officer Peter Marks, a VK3TPM, and his presentation was entitled AI and Amateur Radio. You've probably at least heard of ChatGPT and perhaps asked a few general questions, but where large language models really shine is in software development. Peter Marks, VK3TPM, has been using Anthropic's Claude Code to develop software for amateur radio. A recent experiment was to do work on amateur radio's foremost example of AI, FreeDV RAID version 1, and was able to do months of expert work in just a day. Peter demonstrated practical examples of development with Claude and also brought us up to date on the latest advances in digital voice over HF, which is taking off around the world. Mick Amt, VK3 Charlie Hotel, was kind enough to record the talk, and it is now available for those who are unable to attend with a link to the YouTube video on the club's website. Go to www.raotc.org.au, then under the lunches menu, pun intended, select recordings, and you can see and hear it along with many other previous technical talks. And finally, a note from our editor, Tim Robinson, VK3YBP. There is still time to get an article into OTN for the September 2026 edition. If you need any assistance with getting an article ready, or any advice on articles in general, then please send an email to the OTN editor, Tim Robinson, at otn@raotc.org.au. I'll repeat that email address, otn@raotc.org.au. We're always interested in any activities from RAOTC members. New members and silent keys. Today I am pleased to welcome the following new member to the RAOTC. Robert Marshall, a VK3 Delta Sierra, recently became full member number 1903. The committee looks forward to you enjoying a long and rewarding membership of the RATC. Silent keys. It is with regret I report the following silent key that has come to the attention of our membership officer, Peter Elton, the Victor Kilo 4 of Victor, Quebec, member number 1790. Previously, Peter held the call signs VK2YEI, VK2EPE, VK3FPE, VK3 Kilo Golf, and finally a VK4 Victor, Quebec. Peter was an active amateur and served on the EMDRC committee for several years. Let us pause a moment in memory of our departed colleague. And that's about all the news we have for you this month. In this month's broadcast, I have several articles that I hope you find interesting. Bill, VK3BR, will give us some thoughts on the hazards of mobile phone towers as it was perceived in 2014 from an article originally written by Ron, VK3AFW. It's been interesting to note that a decade or more ago, any proposal to erect a mobile phone tower in the local neighbourhood was often met with strong opposition, with all sorts of nonsensical and ill-informed arguments put forward as to why it wasn't wanted. And now, in 2026, those who haven't got access to mobile phone service now campaign strongly to get it, at least around election time. My, how the tables have turned. This will be followed by this month's feature article by John, a VK3MK, who will tell us about the memoirs of Winston Nichols, VK7EM, from a recent OTN article, My Amateur Television Life, an article that appeared in a recent edition of OTN, or Old Timers News. So now, I'll pass the microphone over to Bill, the VK3BR, so please take it away, Bill.
Radiation and mobile phone towers. This item was written by Ron, VK3AFW, RAOTC member number 824, and Ron writes, "There is confusion in the mind of the public over what constitutes radiation and what is dangerous. Personally, I blame the educators, but that's another story. Fear arising out of ignorance, not in my backyard syndrome, and venal considerations, I am sure, motivate the campaigns against mobile phone towers and other masts carrying antennas, including amateur radio installations. The authorities have responded by sponsoring research and mandating rules for exposure to RF and other radiated energy sources. In Australia, the ACMA has imposed rules on radio amateurs. Radiation is a term that covers any emitted energy that travels out from a source and propagates according to well-known laws. This includes radio waves of all wavelengths, as long as thousands of meters and as short as 1 millimeter. It also includes even shorter wavelengths that intrinsically have the potential to cause ionization, such as X-rays, nuclear decay, or fusion emissions and cosmic rays. It also includes the greatest cause of cancer arising from radiation, sunlight. I've yet to see protesters on the streets demanding that the sun be turned off or moved to another suburb. Campaigns against mobile phone towers have continued over 2 decades or more. Paradoxically, many of the protest supporters can be seen holding their mobile phone to their heads for long periods each day, apparently ignorant of the much higher field strengths from the phone as compared to the tower. I have seen the results of RF surveys in Melbourne, and most of the RF soup comes from TV and FM radio stations, not from mobile phone towers. The effects of radiation, both ionising and non-ionising, have been researched for over a century, and no deleterious effects have been found from the non-ionising radiation until it is intense enough to raise the body temperature beyond the body's ability to regulate it, which requires more than 10 kilowatts per square metre at HF. RF is actually successfully used for some therapy, and has long been used to cauterize surgical incisions. However, it was argued that no studies have been conducted on long-term exposure, that is, continuous exposure for 10 or more years. The Mobile Telecommunications and Health Research Program was set up with the support of the United Kingdom Government to investigate and report on a range of aspects of RF exposure. Their last report covers mobile phone towers as well as other topics, and can be downloaded from http://www.mthr.org.uk/index.htm. A newspaper report on their work appeared in the Melbourne Herald Sun on Wednesday the 12th of February, and I quote, "Mobile phones declared safe. Mobile phone radio waves are harmless to humans. That's the conclusion of a group of British researchers who have been investigating the issue since 2001, publishing close to 60 peer-reviewed papers on the way. In its final report, published yesterday, the Mobile Telecommunications and Health Research Program said it found no evidence that exposure to base station emissions during pregnancy affects the risk of developing cancer in early childhood, nor was there any link to leukemia. Laboratory testing also showed that radio waves had no effect on biological tissue on a range of frequencies. We can now be much more confident about the safety of modern telecommunication systems, said Program Chairman David Coggan." End of quote. While this is a solid, scientifically based report, it won't silence most of the protesters, in my opinion, because their motivations are too ingrained or have too much to do with money to be swayed by any report. It is, however, something that should stand up in any tribunal or court, and it is worth noting by any radio amateur. Thanks for that opinion piece from Ron Cook, VK3AFW.
You are listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia, Incorporated, with the monthly news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club.
This article appeared in the March 2024 edition of OTN, contributed by Winston Nichols, VK7EM, RAOTC member number 899. It's entitled My Amateur Television Life. After qualifying as a radio amateur in 1964 and assembling my station in Burnie, I soon moved to Hobart and to a job at ABC Television. In my spare time, I built many items, among them a transmitter for the 400 MHz band. I had the critical tuned lines silver-plated, and it provided a good power output with its built-in speech modulator. Also, while in Hobart, I acquired a second-hand Vidicon, a vital part of a video camera. Several years later, I had moved to Penguin, and the urge to transmit television signals was strong. TV cameras were rare in those days, and no one else in the state was involved in transmitting TV pictures. Maybe I could build a camera. I had the vital component, a Vidicon, so hunting around I found details of a homemade all-valve camera in an American magazine. So I collected the necessary parts and after some detailed work built the camera, including the deflection coil and focus coil assembly. Although geometrically the picture was slightly out of shape, due to my less than perfect assembling of the tiny coils, I had a usable picture. So my amateur television station, VK7EM/T, was on the air. The frequency band I was permitted to use was 400 megahertz, 70 centimetres, in the UHF band. Few TV receivers at this time had UHF capability. This meant building a down converter which would allow reception of my signals. But I needed someone else to look for me. Another radio amateur, Tony, VK7AX, was keen on amateur television, but he lived in Ulverston, quite out of range of my station, or so I thought. Could I bounce a signal off Mount Montgomery and into Ulverston, I wondered? Well, after some tests, Tony received my pictures. Not very well, but they were readable. We both wandered up Mount Montgomery one day and installed 2 small beam antennas on trees, one facing each town, and connected them together. Hopefully these would act as a passive repeater. I don't really know if they helped, but at least we had established a path. Some time later I pondered whether I could have my pictures received in Melbourne. Amongst my many amateur radio contacts there, several were interested in looking out for me. I even sent a down converter to Ron, VK3AKC, in Geelong, with instructions on how to set it up. In the warmer months, we frequently experienced Melbourne TV signals riding through, sometimes blocking, our local programs. So during the summer months of 1971-72, I transmitted for hours, beaming across Bass Strait and chatting with my friends who were watching for me. I used a homemade phased array antenna several metres above my radio room, and I estimated around 10 watts of output power. Then one Saturday morning I was in contact with Bill, VK3ZBZ, and he said, "Well, it's rather like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but I can see a road and some houses." Wow! My camera was facing down over the streets of Penguin, and Bill could see this. I was so excited. This had never been done before. That's how it all started, and even the local newspaper heard about it. Digressing a little, in early 1975, colour television was about to arrive. My employer had a range of colour TVs in stock and ready for display, while the TV station transmitters had been upgraded for colour. However, the sets would not show colour until the official switch-on in March. The TV stations were withholding the critical colour burst pulse until that date. But thinking about it, I experimented on a new HMV colour set, made up a small circuit board where I extracted colour information from an early video stage and used that to create a false burst pulse. The only problem was it could come up in the wrong phase of 2 possible states. A quick channel reselect and there was perfect colour. So the Wilmot Street TV retailer had a colour TV operating and on display in the window for several months before colour TV had officially begun. Also at this time I was building my own colour TV set, which would give 20 years of fine service. But that's another story. Over the years, I made many ATV contacts into Melbourne and Mount Gambier. The most distant two-way contact station was Peter, VK3ZPA, at Sunbury, and that record still stands today. Peter, VK3BFG, stirred up activity in Melbourne and soon had a large group of ATV enthusiasts. Some nights I would be in television contact with probably 10 stations from my little radio shack, all showing me their stations, equipment and scenes around their homes. I made up captioned picture cards, showed views around Penguin and even made an electric clock. Then Tony organised an ATV repeater station on Mount Duncan, and this gave two-way amateur television coverage all along the northwest coast. An exciting event occurred in 1983. I raced up Mount Duncan on a Friday evening and turned the receive antenna array towards Mount Ossa. Robert VK7ZOS and Jeff VK7GG were planning to transmit video signals from the summit the following day. They did. That was another historical moment for ATV. They carried a camera, batteries, radio equipment and my transmitter and food to the summit for several hours of transmissions. Pictures were received all along the coast. I later upgraded my station, building a new solid-state camera and transmitter, then advanced to colour transmissions and also to a higher frequency band of 1200 MHz or 23 centimetres, where I ran approximately 20 watts output from a homemade transmitter into a small, long Yagi. By now the Melbourne amateurs and Peter VK3BFG had built a 70 centimetre ATV repeater in the Dandenongs, this being accessible in Penguin when the weather was favourable. An annual ATV QSO party was organised by Peter VK3BFG, where stations contributed short video segments which were streamed worldwide. Outside Melbourne, Skype was used to link stations from around Australia and the USA into Peter's control room. My studio had an array of transmitters, monitors, receivers and recorders, and I built a multi-camera video switcher and call sign generator. All my transmitters and antennas were homemade. One evening in 2011, after a long session with the Melbourne ATV repeater group, I noticed colour bars appear on my 70 centimetre receiver, and they weren't mine. A moment later, Rob, VK3TRX, appeared with a brilliantly clear picture. We had a long, wonderful chat where he showed me his studio and some equipment he was preparing for a field day. Then an outstanding two-way colour TV contact with Rod, VK3BQJ, at Lakes Entrance a year later, once again on 23 centimetres FM video. We contacted many times. A local friend, Steve, VK7BI, took his portable station up Mount Montgomery one day and broadcast pictures while I monitored his signals. "Too many flies up here," he exclaimed as he swigged on his frozen drink bottle. My ATV life was a fun experience. Thanks again to Winston Nichols, VK7EM, for this article.
In keeping with tradition, we conclude this broadcast with a humorous short story. Golf in Heaven. Two 75-year-old men had been friends all of their lives. When it was clear that Frank was dying, Joe visited him every day. And one day Joe said, "Frank, we both love playing golf all of our lives. Please do me one favour. When you get to heaven, somehow let me know if there's golf up there." Frank looked at Joe from his deathbed. "I'll do what I can," he said. Then he died. A few weeks later, Joe was awakened from a sound sleep by a blinding flash of white light and a voice calling out to him, "Joe, Joe, it's me, Frank." "Frank, where are you?" Joe said. "In heaven," replied Frank. "I have some really good news and a little bad news." "Tell me the good news first," said Joe. "The good news is that there is golf in heaven. Better yet, all of our old buddies who died before me are here too. Even better than that, we're all young again. Better still, it's always summer and it never rains. And best of all, we can play golf all we want and we never get tired." "That's fantastic," said Joe. "So what's the bad news?" "Well, Joe, the bad news is that you're in my 4-ball this Saturday," Frank said.
You've been listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia Incorporated. This concludes this month's News and Information Bulletin. The next RAOTC News and Information broadcast will take place on the first Monday of next month, on the same frequencies and at the same times as today, with the exception of January. If you have missed this broadcast or want to listen to it again, then visit the RAOTC website. The address is www.raotc.org.au and follow the links on the main page. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you will join in the callbacks where callbacks are taken. This has been Alan, VK3ZAH, on behalf of the RAOTC broadcast team. 7-3 everyone.